It's because the straw going into the lid. You know how like normal shaped lid, there's like a hole.
Yeah.
Well, like that hole had like a bit of plastic that had been like bent down to like pierce the lid.
Yeah.
But it was like quite a firm bit of plastic. So every time you moved the straw, that bit of plastic was like resisting against the straw. So that created a lot of friction. Hence,
It did, and it created a lot of friction between us.
hence the noise. Good morning and welcome to the Hobby Breakfast Super Slam. In the left corner we have the mayor.
Hello, everyone.
And in the right corner we have world champion heavyweight SPG player. And he's not introducing himself. And I'm
You might cut out. Presumably you were drinking another fucking milkshake.
Well, I can't be asked to re-record, so this is the
Hello, I'm here.
Good, and I'm also here. And today we are talking about the tournament called Clash of Kings. It's called Clash of Kings, right?
It's
Clash of
2023.
City of the Kings.
King of the West.
King of the
Clash
West.
of Clans.
Sponsored by Clash of Clans. It's a 350-point tournament. It's a GBHL80. It's got a weird rule set, and Matt is going to take you through that now.
Oh, brilliant. Well, as I'm scrolling through the rules pack that I definitely read, essentially, there's an option to take a king, and the list of kings is extensive. It's basically everyone who's even vaguely royal. So, Eowyn, Spider Queen, Mudhood Kings, Legolas, Thrain, Thranduil, all the ones that you expect to be here as well. And if you take one, then at the beginning of the game you roll a d3, and your king can do that many rerolls during the game. So there's a little bit of incentive to take a king. It's 350 points, like Onod said. So you're probably going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 heroes at a stretch. And it comes with a custom scenario pack with 4 different missions. So, shall I go through those?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so...
Is Onod on mute by any chance?
He keeps muting himself because he's eating crisps and slurping on milkshakes again.
For the sake of the audience, they will appreciate it.
No, so the audience get that courtesy, but we don't.
I'm going to personally pipe the sound of me.
You just came off mute again!
I'm going to pipe the sound of me drinking milkshake into your room, but I'm not going to reveal where it's coming from.
Wow.
Yeah. For listeners, we can just hear the mute sound on Discord going on and off.
Yeah.
So
or like on and off.
Yes. There are 4 rounds. The first one is assassination with a twist. So both the assassin and the target
sounds like a cocktail.
Must be the force's leader. There are no additional points for causing wounds on the enemy leader. These are replaced with having a banner left alive at the end of the game, 1 point, or having a banner when your opponent does not, 2 points. If your leader is a king, they gain Bane of Kings when making strikes against the enemy leader. And I forget what Bane does. Is that reroll once? No. Bane of Kings is an actual thing, isn't it? That's like a rule of like some Harad dude.
Oh, I'll get the manual. Jesus, what?
I don't have the rulebook on me.
I do.
While OT looks for that, I'll go through round 2, which is Rescue the King, which is Retrieval. Same as the match play guide, but your force's leader is not deployed. Instead, you nominate a warrior in that warband for the purposes of deployment to be the hero. And you set the objective where, or rather, you put your king where the objective would usually be on your opponent's side of the board. They may take no action during the game, or be charged or shot at by opposing models until a friendly model finishes a movement phase in base contact with them. I noticed this says nothing about magic, but I'm assuming you can't cast magic on them either. They may then move, shoot, and fight as normal. So basically, you've got to go and activate your leader. They will not move on the turn they are freed. This will then score 3 victory points, or you score 5 if they're in your deployment zone, or 7 if they leave the table via one of your board edges. If your leader is a king, they are set up a further 3 inches from the corner of the board. So I think instead of 12, it's 15, or maybe instead of 15, it's 18.
It's originally 12 and goes up to 15.
Okay, so if this again incentivizes you taking a king,
and it's actually like that extra 3 inches, I think is fairly relevant because like we've all played. Well, hang on, I don't think Onod has, but like, oh no, we did play, didn't we, in our practice games? But like, because a lot of the armies might center around like the king giving your army a buff, it is actually quite relevant that they are closer or further from the center of the board.
Yeah, it definitely helps and gives you an edge if you take a king. Did you find the Bane of Kings rule?
Yes, it is. This model must re-roll all fail to wound rolls when making strikes in combat.
Wow. Okay, so you re-roll all wounds to your opponent's leader, basically.
Is that against anyone or just against the target?
Bane of Kings.
It says against the enemy leader is what it says.
Yeah.
So you get Bane of Kings, but only on your opponent's leader with your leader.
Nice.
But
Still
because
good.
it's the assassination, that's what you're gunning for, really.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the on-odd and off joke, by the way.
Yeah. No, but were you eating crisps at the time, so you couldn't remark on how much you enjoyed it? Okay.
Yeah, but I wanted it on the record that I liked it.
Okay, thank you. I was quite pleased with it.
Yeah, congrats, man. You did it.
Right, next one.
Round 3 is Seize the Crown. So it's Seize the Prize. So you've got one objective in the middle with the following change. If the artifact is held by the king, or a king, it says, so it could be your leader, or it could be, if you've taken 3 dwarf kings. Oh no, you can only take one king.
Yeah, you can only take one king. Otherwise, the scenarios wouldn't be balanced.
Yeah. They count as wearing the Mithril crown from page 52 of the Armies of the Lord of the Rings, with the exception that it affects all friendly models. Yeah. So this is Durba's crown, where...
No.
Is it not?
Groblob.
Oh, sorry. So on a 4+ at the beginning of the fight phase, everyone within 3 everyone friendly within 3 gets +1 fights, which is fine. It might make a difference in some instances. Yeah. It's a good reason to have a king again. And then round 4 is Kings of Battle. Plays as Lords of Battle with the following change: successful fate rolls by kings do not count towards the wound tally. So whereas before you wouldn't use your fate up until the end because otherwise it would count as wounds, and it's a wound that you have a 50-50 chance of saving, you'd instead probably roll your fate rolls, because even if you fail, it doesn't matter. Oh no, sorry. If it passes, then it won't count towards the wound tally, i.e. using a fate. So all the scenarios here, none of them really involve very much board control. There's no domination or destroy the supplies or anything that requires a large number of models, which I think might have been deliberate, so that you bring like a king with their like retinue or something. As we'll see later, some lists did bring a lot of models, but I think assassinate the king obviously involves having something that can fight well in combat as your leader. Rescue the king means you probably don't want to have invested too much in your leader, or at least not just have one hero, because that hero is going to be doing nothing for most of the game. Seize the Crown involves moving quite quickly at the beginning of the game, so you probably want something with March. And Lords of Battle, you just want an elite force that can do more wounds than it receives. So I feel like this set overall is probably going to reward a medium model count with multiple heroes that can move fast, has March, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I think it's weirdly quite balanced. Like it's definitely like quite niche. But like I think we'll look at the list later. I think like there's pluses, there's positives and downsides to like each force, and there'll be some that really struggle in some scenarios but do really well in others. Yeah, if you said like I think it's really important that second one's in there, because it does mean that like you shouldn't just like there's no King Alessar, for instance, which was the first thing that I thought of when there was one about kings. And yeah, so I think it's quite nicely balanced.
Yeah, the second one especially, where your leader's not doing anything, I think definitely makes it harder to choose something that's, King of Lesser.
Yeah.
So should we have a look at our list?
Yeah. Should we not say whose is whose and give people a second to try and guess who has brought which list?
Okay, yeah, good idea.
I mean, anyone who has ever watched any of our videos, it won't be very hard.
No, well, they might not have been paying attention.
True.
Mine might be more difficult, but I think your 2 is fairly obvious, and then mine is just by default mine.
Process of elimination.
Yeah. So
I'm taking Rohan.
Got him.
And this is great banter.
It really is great banter. Mayor, do you want to take us through your
Rohan? Mayor, you do your list.
So I'm taking Riders of Theoden. I didn't have any of these heroes when I wrote the list. So I essentially have 3 options. I could go Goblin Town with the Goblin King. I could go. I can't go Return of the King actually because that involves 2 King models. I could take Thorin's Company. I could try and build my dwarves and take Dane, but lots of people have dwarves and they're not very mobile. Or I could take.
Dwarves are beautiful just as they are.
Yeah. I could take something that doesn't have a king, but that would probably not be in the spirit of the tournament. So I thought I'd take something that I have some of the models for at least, which is Rohan. I've always wanted to do Riders of Theoden, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to get some of the heroes done. So we've got Theoden with armoured horse and heavy armour and a shield, obviously. He's got a rider with a banner and a Royal Guard with throwing spears. And then we've got Darewine and Elfhelm, both with a Royal Guard with throwing spears. And they obviously have horses, if that wasn't obvious. So only 7 models, but I've done 3 practice games and won them all, admittedly against dwarves with a ballista, so I don't know how accurate that would be to...
I hear the ballistas are pretty accurate. I'm on fire today.
I think I prefer the Onod and off joke.
Yeah, that was more niche. Anyway, we've interrupted Mayor. He was making some actually interesting points about his list.
So I think having multiple heroes is going to be great for this because the second scenario, you're going to be in big trouble if you don't have a hero. And in one of the practice games, I played Army of the Dead, and not having my king model. I mean, I ended up winning the game. I don't think I should have won that game at all. Spoilers. It went out.
It went out today.
At this point, yeah. Not that we're dating this episode now, but that's fine. Lots of throwing spears. Elfhelm's going to help. Darewine and Elfhelm are going to be great. The only thing that's a bit annoying is Elfhelm doesn't have strike, and Darewine is the only one with march. So Elfhelm's going to be doing all the move offs.
Yep.
And which is fine. You know, as a cav army, you're going to be doing that. And my hope is to just outmight my opponent, get some good charges off. I hope my opponent doesn't have 12 bows, and just kill stuff in combat as quickly as possible. That's generally the plan. Scenario 1, I'm just going to have to use Theoden to try and kill the enemy hero as quickly as possible. Round 2, I'm going to try and march up and get into Theoden to free him up and prevent my opponent from getting to their king. I don't think there's anything I can do to stop them getting to their king because they're probably going to have more models than me. But if I can just get to mine quicker, because mine is mounted, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get back quicker. Round 3 sees the crown. I'm just going to march turn 1, try and uncover the prize, uncover it as quickly as possible, and then shuttle whoever picks it up to my opponent's side of the board. And then round 4, I'm just going to... I mean, Sebastian suggested that I could dismount all of my models so that my opponent can't wound horses and get wounds for that. But I was like, I think I'd rather just have them on horses to get charges. I've got a very elite army, so I should really be outputting more wounds than I'm receiving. So that's the general plan.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, it's going to be very swingy. Like, I think because obviously Rise of Theoden has the bonus, the death special rule. But like, if that first turn you charge in goes well, you're probably just going to win the game. Like, especially if you're able to get off, the combats with Daewine and stuff like that, and the throwing spears with Elfhelm. Like, you could definitely chew through a lot of lists very quickly.
Yeah.
I think bows are going to be your biggest issue because, like, if they're shooting off your heroes off their horses, it does really slow down how effective they can be. Because they're all 2 attacks, fight 5, aren't they? Elfhelm's fight 4, actually, I think, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
But because they're relatively cheap, I mean, for 350 points, having 7 models with 3 heroes, everyone's mounted, I've got a banner, I've got everything you could need, really, at 350, apart from numbers.
Model count.
But because of the scenario,
yeah.
I'm relatively happy with that. Like, there might be 1 or 2 lists that have a ton of models that we'll see that in Retrieval is going to be a problem, but maybe I'll just have to play against, if I get lucky, I'll play against an elite force in Retrieval instead. So,
yeah. I think like a lot of the tournament will be decided on those Retrieval games, because I think it will be, weirdly, it's going to be weak for a lot of people, which I know feels weird to say, but like because people are bringing, Thrandur or Celeborn and things like that, and like even with Thror in my list, like I'm losing 120 points, which is over a third of my army. And he like, as we found in our game, Mayor, like even when you get to him, because he's only got a 5-inch move and doesn't have march, just because he's been free doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get loads of use out of him. So yeah,
and I'm hoping that because a lot of the lists that look like they're going to do well have a fair number of models, by the time it gets to round 4, if I've done well, then I'll be playing against a list with lots of models in Lords of Battle. And that shouldn't be too difficult. So
you've thought about this in much more detail than I have.
Well, speaking of how you've thought about it, I want to hear about your list.
Well, I painted this. Oh my god, when did I paint this? I probably started it in like February, and I've now got like 900 points of Thrors, and I've never taken it to a tournament. Basically, I was running a lot of Riv Knights and decided that it was making me miserable, and that I wanted to try something else. So I went to the complete opposite end and just started doing Dwarves, which I don't know. I think it just feels like safe is my Dwarf gaming. Like it's not as like intense and kitey as the Rivendell as the Knights were. So with this one I've just got Thror and then 6 of the King's Guards who have got the upgrades to make them strength 4, which is I think really good, and then some Warriors of Erebor with Spear and Shield. One of the big advantages of Thrors is that you can take those spears, which I think is something that really holds back Khazad-dûm. And then I've just got a little Dale alliance with Girion with his great bow and a Warrior of Dale with bow and spear, and 2 Warriors with spear and shield. My model count's pretty low. I've only got 16, which, looking at Mayor's list, I'm suddenly like, oof. Like, I've got no mounted heroes. I'm really reliant on like Girion putting in quite a lot of work with his bow, or I'm just going to get kind of cut to pieces. I think like I'm definitely going to get outmaneuvered. There's no march in the list. Oh, I'm really talking myself out of this now. I'm just listing all the stuff that's really bad. What was that? I didn't hear that.
It's too late. It's
too late. It's entered. It's true. It's done. But I'm really looking forward to running it. Like, I think I really like Girion. I don't actually know how good he is, but like when you're rolling hot with Girion, it's unbelievable. Like your opponent's like, "What? You're shooting again?" And you're like, "Yes, yes, I am shooting again." And like the potential for 3 strength 4 hits per turn is pretty insane. So he's really good. I mean, I think Thror's quite good for this format because he's D9. And I think I will, as far as possible, try and save a lot of his might for those fate rolls. I think it is going to be really difficult for people to put wounds on him, because even strength 4 is suddenly needing a 6x4, and like strength 6 needs 6s and stuff like that. Like it's a bit like if he's trapped, normally you'd be worried about your hero dying, but I'd mostly be worried about him taking like maybe 1 or 2 wounds. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. I don't think it's that competitive. I think it needs a bit more maneuverability for it to be more competitive. I think in truth, if you were power gaming, you might put in like a Dale captain instead of Girion, just to make them a bit more maneuverable. But I don't actually know if that would be strictly better or worse. But yeah, that was just sort of where my mind went.
Well, there's a similar list, isn't there? That's
just grim
with
just
18 dudes,
which I respect in a way, because like essentially you're just really relying on those grim hammers putting in a lot of work, which they can do. Like this number of throwing weapons is seriously good. In all especially against your Goblin Town mare, like those throwing weapons every turn. If it's anything that's like D5 or lower, suddenly you're actually getting like a couple of extra wounds for free, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think it's quite strong. 2 heroes is going to be important, whereas the other list, where you've only got Thrall, like that's going to be really hard to win Retrieval.
Yeah,
Dwarves are slow inherently, so the fact you've got some men is good. You got some spears. You've got the men numbers, but the dwarf staying power.
Yeah,
and you've got great bow superiority. I think your opponent's going to be coming to you, which is good because you're slow. So I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
It's true. I think this is the list I'm taking to a tournament that I've looked forward to most in a while, if that makes sense. Like I think with the Knights,
it's very you.
Yeah. This is because I ran Khazad-dûm for a while and I actually really enjoyed it, and then I was like, I need to go out of my comfort zone, and then I did, and I was like, oh god, this is awful. It's just I'm just running around the board the whole game, having a really awful time. So yeah, this should be fun. And
Onod was sorry, go on.
I think even if it goes badly, like I don't think I'm going to get tabled. Like I think it was always one of my worries with the Knights is if I fucked up the charge turn, like you just kind of get wiped out. Whereas I've got lots of D7. Thrall's super tanky. It should be really good.
Yeah. Onod was saying that you have a tendency to want your opponent to have some agency, and that if you bring a list like Riv Knights that has to play in a way where it doesn't give your opponent's agency, then you'll do something like charge them in, and then to give your opponent agency in some way. Whereas I think list is a lot more well-rounded.
Yeah, I think like that stuff is something that maybe needs like a longer time to explain. But like, yeah, I think the point you're getting at of like the way to win with Riv Knights was not the way I wanted to play the game, and that just resulted in like me feeling like quite confused about what I should do. And it did just end up with some like games I really didn't enjoy. And like even when I was winning, I was like, oh, this feels kind of lame because like I've just shot you pretty much to death and then just charged in the guys that are left. Whereas like actually, even though the overall experience maybe wasn't super positive, the tournament we went to near Bristol, where me and Onod brought the wacky fellowship list, I really enjoyed that because like it forced the Knights to play in a bit more of a mixed arms way, which I think is maybe a bit more interactive and a bit more fun. But yeah, I think that's something that maybe needs a bit longer than we've got today to discuss. But yeah, looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I just think the list is a lot more. It'll allow you to have a lot more fun. And I think it's a GBHL80. A lot of the lists do look like genuinely like they've been written to match the theme of the tournament and be fun. So
no bears.
Yeah, no bears. That would have been a really weird choice. But yeah.
Right,
so
Onod.
Let's hear about your non-king lists. Which
I've not brought a king.
Explain yourself.
It's very simple. My allegiance is to the Republic.
To democracy.
So I have brought an elected official, Mayor Whitfoot, rather than a king. And,
He's king of our hearts.
He is king of our hearts, and I'm going to be staunchly refusing to recognise the sovereign powers of any of my opponents. So
You're like France.
I am. I'm instituting a revolution, a very ineffectual one.
Yeah,
but it will be present. I'm bringing Defenders of the Shire Legendary Legion. I am bringing Merry with a shield and a full war band of battling brandybucks with axes, because I'm a filthy power
gamer. Look at this list. So sweaty.
So sweaty, you know me. And
we'll let you off.
I'm bringing Pippin also with a shield and 14 Turkish hunters. I'm bringing then the Mayor Whitfoot, the big man himself, with 3 Hobbit sheriffs and 9 Hobbit militia, all with axes again, because as aforementioned, a horrendous power gamer. And then finally, Fatty Bolger, sacred be his stones. He rounds out the list.
Literally.
Very good. You're on fire today.
I'm really out. I don't know what's happening.
I still preferred Onod and off though.
Yeah.
Top that,
yeah. You had to be there.
Total models 45, which
Bloody
I think
hell.
makes me the biggest list there.
Chiefs Ruffians similar?
It's similar, but it's not quite.
Yeah.
45 models is so silly. How many bows do you have? Just 14?
Just 14.
14.
14 hitting on 3s.
Yeah.
Obviously, my break point's quite high.
I'd really like to see you against the Azog list.
I wouldn't.
Oof. No, I think you get ripped apart by the Azog list.
Absolutely rinsed by that list. But anyway, there we go. So yeah, there's no real plan.
Just vibes.
Yeah. The assassinate the king.
Yeah, I think the problem is none of the scenarios are really very good for you.
No. If my opponent has a banner, I will. I might be able to break them and them not break me. That's probably what I'm going for there. Round 2, actually,
probably the best one.
Not awful for me because I have so many bodies that it will be very difficult for them to get to their king.
Sheer weight of numbers. You can triple stack them.
There's a little chance of me rescuing my own though. So again, I might win if I manage to break them. Seize the crown. Again, I'm very unlikely to seize the crown, so I might win if I kill whoever has the crown and then break them. And then finally, Lords of Battle. I'm very unlikely to win, but I might somehow manage it if I'm able to break them. So it's going to be a
going for the spoon, I reckon.
Yeah, maybe.
Whoa! No, I think
you'll win a couple. I reckon you'll win 2 games.
I think I might win Rescue the King. I'm not sure about the others. I think I might get a draw just because I tend to play for draws quite a lot of the time.
Deliberately, or
I think it's just the way that
through necessity.
I think the way that I think is I usually am going for wins by quite narrow margins.
Yeah.
Draw.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yes, but the Shire will be there.
I'm excited for it.
The tournament will be better for it. I think it's a really fun list.
Yeah.
We hope so, don't we?
Yeah.
And I'd argue that you're sort of taking a king. You've taken it in the spirit of an elected official, so I think it's very fluffy as well.
Which, of course, kings are not, and that is exactly the point I will be making. And
repeatedly to your opponents.
I just want to take a moment now to say how disappointed I am in the GBHL for the
supporting the monarchy.
Supporting the monarchy.
This is a very bold stance to take.
I'm not going to edit it out though. I think that's important.
Okay, you stand by your aforementioned points.
As does the Hobby Breakfast Show at large.
Yeah. Onod speaks for all of us.
I do.
Especially Mayor.
We would like to see Charles outed and for him to pay tax. Good. So tax.
No, we need to go through our predictions.
Oh, prediction!
Oh no! Oh god!
I reckon we should all predict each other, but we shouldn't predict ourselves.
I predict a riot.
I predict it right. Does anybody? Sorry.
I think that Mare will go 3 wins and
Wow,
1 draw.
such slander.
I think that OT will go 0-4.
Wow.
And be kicked out of the event. OT will be asked to leave at lunchtime. Again.
I think OT will go 2-2.
I think I'm going to get either 2 wins.
Oh, you're predicting other people's.
Okay. I think. Okay. Sorry. I immediately disregarded the format because I don't care.
Well, we can say what we think we'll get.
No.
I apologize for my previous statement. I didn't mean it.
I think that OT is going to get 1 win and a draw.
Oh, jeez!
Oh.
Right in the feels.
Oh. And I reckon Onod's
gonna get the spoon.
I think he's gonna get a win and a draw as well. Actually,
wow.
Yeah, and I think you two are going to draw against each other. That's going to be my prediction.
I mean that is quite likely actually.
Yeah, on the bottom table.
Statistically, if we do play against
well,
each other,
if you end up playing in the last game, then I think we all know that Onod's going to win.
Onod just has a massive mental edge against me. Like he is my kryptonite.
I'll bring Trivia just in case.
Yeah, and just have him in your hand.
Yeah,
not on the board.
OT, your predictions.
I think Onod will go 2 wins.
Wow.
I think Mare will get 3 wins and a draw.
Okay.
Well, I'm really appreciative of the massive heights that you think I'm going to get to. That is my plan.
Listen to this humble bragging.
Yeah. Because also we're going to juxtapose this with the reactions afterwards, so it will immediately be fun. But like, I think your list copes well with almost all the scenarios. Like, you're not that crippled by round 2. I think Assassinate works pretty well. Like, you've got a good threat on their heroes. You've got the maneuverability for Seize the Crown. Kings of Battle is maybe slightly concerning because, I think Theoden is a little vulnerable, but then obviously you're going to be putting out more wounds than you take, so you'll probably be okay. I think my only real concern with your list is if Theoden dies, because then I think you do lose a lot of... Because then also you lose the Daywine synergy as well with the free heroic combat.
True, yeah. He didn't die in any of my practice games, but he's not massively... He's D7, which is pretty nice.
But he does only have 1 fate and 2 wounds.
I think I'm going to have to change my thoughts on your list.
Who are you talking to?
I feel like you're both going to go 2 wins.
Oof. He's just changing it now because we hyped him up. He feels bad.
He just feels bad for pointing out that you're historically
shit at the game.
You're not allowed to change, and I refuse to edit in any other way.
Okay, this is where my predictions were hopefully spot on, and I'm justified in my.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's fair.
I'm in love with this pie chart where you've got the percentages of every faction, but it's 3.7% for pretty much all of them because one person has each. I love that detail.
I think it shows a good range, though, doesn't it?
It does show. There's a reassuring variety at this tournament, which I am genuinely here for. Like,
and there's also, and I think we're very excited about this. Someone is bringing the Chiefs Ruffians.
Yeah, I'm so down for that. Like, huge respect.
Is it the same guy that came to Worcester? It's not that guy,
I don't know. It's a slightly different list. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a different person. I'm not sure if it's the same person, but yeah. I think it's cool.
I'm expecting us to match, and I'm expecting the pain of trying to move 85 models in an hour and a quarter that we've been doing for 2 games. Will.
Yeah. It's. I think the turn time is going to be a bit wacky just because of how different the scenarios are to the normal ones. Like, I think actually people may struggle a little bit to get the games in time.
You have to think about it a little bit, don't you? Because you're not what you're doing.
Yeah.
I also think there's going to be a lot of people forgetting they have their D3 rerolls.
Oh, for sure. Like, we forgot in our games.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So look at it. I love the chart. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
As you can see, though, a few people are actually bringing popular.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number of players by what they're taking faction wise. Interestingly, not a lot of people bring Legendary Legions to this.
No.
I suppose there aren't many legions with a king at that points level, apart from
The Rohan ones.
the Rohan ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So out of those Legendary Legions, 4 Rohan, one is Shire and one is Sharky's boys.
Yeah.
That accounts for all the Legendary Legions. So Rohan really adding to it. It kind of confirms the whole, if you're going to play Rohan, play without a Legion shtick that we have been banging on about.
Yeah.
King or no king, as you can see, 75% of people are there for fun, and the other 25% of people are horrible individuals, including myself.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fight
or
me.
just don't support the monarchy.
Yes.
Like us.
Yeah. So 25% of people either Charles do pay taxes or aren't fun.
Yeah.
Both.
The two things probably go hand in hand, actually. Yeah.
What we could do is
good evil split very quickly. It's very even. We like that.
Yeah. And like I think it'd be interesting to at the end see if there's like a favoured if like any of the particular lists have done well, like as in if like there's a common trope of the lists that have done well, because I think we have like an idea of what might be good and what might not be good, but we're not actually that certain as to what will or won't be OP. I think there will be some actually like quite broken stuff. Like I think some of the scenarios may prove to be quite imbalanced, but have to wait and see.
What lists are we worried about?
Azog's Hunters, that list is pretty nuts. Like that many Hunter Orcs at this lower points level is pretty insane. And I think like it has everything. Like it has the numbers, it has a few maneuverable troops, it's got 11 bows. Like it doesn't lose out in the king scenario because it's only going to lose like 60 points worth of models or something. Like I'm worried about that one. We also mentioned the Harad list. Like I think Harad's just good. Kind of like flat. I think it's again similarly. It's maneuverable. It's got good hitting power. Like I think that hasn't it got like a Harad king with a war spear on horse or something. Like I think he'll be really really good with those rerolls as well.
Yeah, they're going to be really good.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see how the canned list of 2 chariots does.
Yeah,
I mean,
I like that.
See whether it's such low points, whether a lot of people struggle with a chariot.
But
we'll see.
We will see.
It's also going to be interesting having a 60mm pie base as an objective. On that one.
Yeah, that's going to be weird.
Fuck's sake.
That's going to make it really easy to get to, though.
Yes.
Which I'm guessing is part of the plan.
Yeah. Maybe it'll be like it won't be able to fit in a gap, but like if terrain's set up in a certain way, will it just be really hard to get to, or like really hard to defend? Maybe.
Presumably, though, he can place his chariot facing whatever direction as the objective, so he can just have it ready to roll some people.
This is true.
Yeah,
it can't move in that turn though. So
no, but the next turn.
Yeah, that could be questionable.
But I don't think there are any like disgustingly sweaty lists. Like I think they're all within the realms of what is reasonable. I think there are some very powerful lists, but I don't think there are any that are like specifically there to fully exploit the tournament rules.
Except for Mare.
Except for
my list, naturally.
Yeah. Good. Wow. There's going to be a cut here, and we will be back. One week later.
Should we have a crack at recording that now?
1 week later, 1 year older.
Yeah.
And we will then talk about how it went.
Yeah.
That was the transition.
Seamless.
Yeah. Amazing.
I am amazed.
We're still going.
4 to 6 days later.
Right, we're back. A week has passed. We've done the tournament. No time has passed at all for the video, such as the magic of
editing.
Yeah. So let's run through and discuss how things went. General thoughts on the tournament summed up in 5 words or less. OT?
A big vibe.
Good. 3 words. Very impressive. Mayor?
Thank you.
Lots of fun and games.
Lots of fun and games. He had longer, though, to think of his.
He's the full one. I'm going to go with the best yet for Onod. There you go.
Very nice.
5, isn't it?
How many tournaments have you been to now?
2.
Okay.
It was better than the one that made you really sad.
Yeah, it was better than the one that almost put me off going to tournaments. So we arrived bright and early in Cheltenham. Cool venue, I thought. Income Gaming, shout out.
Yep.
It's like a pub that's also a game store.
Sometimes, and then they put it all away, and everyone has a wild night, and then they come back the next day and play tabletop games.
I can't imagine things being that wild in there.
No, I was being slightly sarcastic.
They were saying we're going to turn this into a club, and I was like, really? This place turns into a club?
Really? Sign me up.
It's like smaller. It's like smaller than your house. Like
I can confirm it's not changed in about 10 years, because about 10 years ago I won a 40k tournament there. Like that's how long ago they've been set up. They've been there for it forever. They're really good.
Must be quite a good, successful business model then.
Setting up in a pub.
They probably make all their money off beer and magic, but I guess SBG helps keep the lights on for the day that the tournament is held, at least.
And
a wide selection of Legion models, which was nice to see.
Yeah, and
enjoyed that.
Lots of Moonstone.
Yeah.
Don't mention Moonstone in Income Gaming.
Whatever the fuck Moonstone is.
Sounds great.
But there were lots of boxes for it, and there was also very exciting a Star Wars Shatterpoint box, which Mayor.
I just couldn't get enough of it, really.
He doesn't know it yet, but he's actually accidentally bought one.
And forgotten about it.
That would be a nice surprise for him, won't it? So we got there bright and early. I say bright and early. It was actually quite.
It was quite late. We finished quite early.
And Mayor was late as well.
I wasn't late. I was on time for when the briefing should have been according to the schedule.
Okay.
A wizard is never late. He arrives exactly when
exactly. All in good time.
And kicks the shit out of some nerds.
Yeah. First gaming then. Now I'm not gonna lie. The first.
He's a truthful man, Onod.
I'm many things, but not truthful is not one of them. I was a little bit sad because my first matchup was against Canned, who were like pretty much the one force. Well, there were 2 Canned players, and I was like, before the tournament, I was like, I really don't want to play Canned.
Yeah,
it looks like you're playing in Mordor as well.
And immediately I got matched. I think I was playing in some sort of Hobbit hell.
Yeah,
farthest from like Shire I've ever been. Farthest from home I've ever been.
Yeah.
The only green is on your bases.
Yeah, very difficult game, but we'll discuss further. OT, your first game? No images, but I will.
No images. I was full try hard mode, so I couldn't even look away from the board for a second to take a picture. I was against. It was pure Harad with a king and Raza and a bunch of a Bracken Guard and other shenanigans. Yeah. I won't go into the result now, but it was pretty fun.
Yeah, and then you were playing.
I was playing against Thranduil's Halls. My opponent had no bows, so I'll leave the viewers guess what happened in that game.
He lost.
Sad.
Big sad for him. Thranduil didn't get into combat.
Yeah. What did we think of the changes to Assassination then? Did you like...
Didn't make a difference to me.
It
didn't really encourage me.
Barely in combat.
Anyway. Yeah. I mean, because literally, this isn't really a spoiler, but in none of my games, did a king die on either side.
No,
So
it kind of incentivized, and this is by no means obviously the fault of TA because like it was a theme tournament, but it kind of incentivized you just to not
use your king.
Yeah.
Because if you
unless you like absolutely had to.
Yeah, like I imagine anyone who brought a banner was probably just thinking to themselves, "I'll just see if I can last for an hour and a half."
Yeah,
and anyone else was just like, "I'll just see if I can break my opponent." Yeah, I mean, I had no clue what to do. I couldn't catch cans. I didn't have the ability really to corner them successfully because his chariot could have just rolled out by squashing the hobbits on the way. So I didn't really want to spread out too thinly either. So I just felt like I was screwed, and I pretty much was. I had one epic play. I was like, this is my one shot of glory, which is that I spawned my ambush warband in so that they'd get a round of throw stones at the king the next turn.
Beautiful.
I basically banked the whole game on could I get one lucky wound with a strength 1 stone.
Did you?
No.
Oh.
I actually wounded the king's chariot 2 times, so I was getting a couple of wounds with my shooting. I was just a bit unlucky that they never actually went in on the king. I actually knocked the chieftain off his chariot. The hobbits managed to gank him, but basically what happened is they just eventually, even though I tried to hide my hobbits in the building because they didn't have the range to shoot back, the chariots just rolled all the way around. They had to roll all the way around because of the traps. So big
the traps.
Big win for the traps. They're quite scary for chariots because he just immediately gets dismounted. On like a 4-up, so he had to go all the way around the entire thing, but it was just a matter of time. It was a game,
a real game.
AT, yours was a bit more entertaining.
Yeah. Are we doing results now, or are we hiding those until the end, or how do you want to do this?
I think hide ultimate results till the end.
Okay, so don't say the outcome of the game.
You can say the outcome of this game, just
not the others.
Not the next games.
Yeah, so this one was fine. Like, I had a plan and I stuck to it. Basically, my plan was to hide behind the central. Basically, there was a big, and if I had a picture, I could show you this. I want to imagine there's a big stone building in the center, and basically it was like a scene from a crappy comedy film where like they're hiding around the corner, and when they run around the other way, they go around the other side. And then basically I just kept Girion and the bows at the back, and they were picking off a few guys, and then eventually he was kind of forced to charge in, and my massed dwarf hordes just swarmed him. Thror heroic combated into the Harad King, who was my opponent's leader, and just insta-killed him. I burned a couple of might to kill him. And yeah, at that point, the game was kind of over because my assassin Thror had killed his leader. So that was 7-0. And then I basically just cleared up the rest of his troops. I think a couple more turns maybe would have tabled him. But yeah, it was pretty nice. I think Thrall being my king in this format meant he was one of the few kings who was actually willing to charge in just because he was so unlikely to get wounded. Like, my opponent had Raza on him, burned 3 might, got like 2 wounds through, and I just fated both of them away. So yeah, it was a pretty resounding. I think it was a 10-2 win or something in the end. My opponent just did everything he could, to be honest. But like as soon as his king went down, it was kind of game over. Girion did sod all game, apart from killing 3 a bracket card in a turn, and then just did nothing for the rest of the game. Yeah, not bad.
Very nice.
And then you were playing on the board with the Weathertop scenery that I later played on.
Yeah, the perfect board for my strategy. I had a dilemma, and that is if your opponent brings no bows and you bring all mounted cavalry with range weapons, do you owe it to them to go into combat with them because they've not brought a bow, or is that their own fault? And I decided that I was going to win the game, and I just sort of ran around the terrain piece. I was saying to him, like, I was just like, I'm sorry, but you've not got a bow, and if I charge in, I'm just going to get slaughtered because you've got fight 5 and fight 6 everywhere. My heroes are fight 5, so I will just die. And Thranduil was super scary, so we just ran around for a bit. He ended up splitting up his force to try and catch me. I just jumped on the force with a banner and quickly killed it, stayed out of range of Thranduil, and then moved away. Because we both had a banner, we were drawing, but as soon as I had a banner and he didn't, I was winning, and I ended up breaking him as well. So a simple game one.
Yeah.
I don't think I lost any models. Oh no, I think maybe I lost one. Yeah.
I lost many models. Round 2 then, which was Rescue the King. Now, I actually quite enjoyed this version of Retrieval.
Yeah. It meant you couldn't go all in on your king model for the tournament.
I think it was just kind of interesting, the concept of just not having your leader, just like which changed the dynamic of a game of SVG. So I ended up playing against the guy who Mayor beat with the no bows, and I was like,
no bows, here we go.
We in the money.
they don't have Thranduil, don't have any bows. I'll just bubble wrap Thranduil with 30 hobbits, and he can just spend all game trying to get through that, and eventually I'll probably kill all his elves anyway. Was kind of my thinking. I was just like, we're going to be rolling so many dice. I'll kill a few coming in shooting, and then he just won't have the numbers to maintain any kind of proper shield wall. That didn't happen.
Spoilers, God.
Spoilers. I killed one model with my shooting, and he did an all right job to like hide behind a building. Like he played it smart. He managed to dodge a little bit of the shooting using this kind of weird building, and obviously I'd positioned the traps kind of scattered because I was aware that he could come from 2 directions, so he was also able to avoid some of the traps. So I only killed one, and that was like 3 rounds of like getting a few bows in. I also got like a round of throw stones in. You can see in the first image that I had like about 10 hobbits lined at the throw stones. Didn't kill anything with them either. He, without Thranduil, just butchered the hobbits. Just absolutely just slammed through them. It was ridiculous.
Bit of an oof, that. Like, not how you'd expect it to go at all.
Well, my thought process was just kind of like it'll be okay. Like, I'm piercing striking, so I'm wounding them on 5s.
Yeah.
Like he's got to lose a few fights each turn, and I'll probably kill a couple of elves each turn. I killed 3 more elves in the entire game, like lots in combat, and one of those was with Pippin, and I spent a might point to do it just because I was so desperate at that point because he was getting so close to Thranduil by then. I was just like, I just need to reduce the amount of elves on the board. And it was literally like we'd like roll to strike. He'd roll his dice, and I wouldn't even bother rolling because he would just roll a 6, and I'd be like, okay, And then he rolled and he killed a hobbit, and then he rolled, and it was like, oh, he got a 2, and I was like, great, roll my dice, I got a 5, and then he went banner re-roll 6, and like I kid you not, like it was just absolutely insane, and like obviously you pay for the higher fight, so you know. I can't do anything about it if he rolls a 6 or, if he rolls high. But even then, the fights that I won, I just low rolled. And I think that the elves would have still got through eventually, but it was a bit kind of like, felt like they...
A bit aggravating.
I did manage to go grab Merry, though, because I ambushed my warband in, tagged him, used both his might to march, got him into my boards, narrowly avoided him fleeing because he rolled a double 1 on courage. So
oh my god.
I had to use all of his will on that.
At least you can survive that.
Yeah. But so I lost, I think it was like 8-5 or something because I was broken, but we both had got our kings onto our sides of the table, basically. So, another close-ish loss, but this one felt a bit worse because I was like, it felt like I could have done something about this, and it felt a little harsh that the hobbits didn't get to do slightly more than what they did. But there you go.
Eef
indeed.
Yeah, you'd expect, because they're only just, well, they're miles higher fight than you, but it's wasted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The number of guys you had, you'd expect to win some more, especially as they didn't even have a banner.
Yeah.
Whereas you had the mayor.
No, he did have a banner. Sorry,
he did have a banner.
The Thranduil guy.
Been,
yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, because I killed it into game 1. No one said I was forgetful. Okay.
Humble brag there. Accidentally.
Humble brag. Yeah. Weird flex.
But how many elves did he even have? I can't even see where his army is. Where did this guy finish? Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
He had 11. He had 14 elves.
Oof.
So I was just over 2v1. Yeah. I was kind of saying to him, because I was having a chat, because me and OT played a practice game of this where I brought my ambushes in just to try and hold them back. I was just like, I won't even bother trying to grab the guy. And the reason I didn't do that in this game was because he had the banner.
Yeah.
And wait, actually, did the banner get points? I can't even.
Oh, we'd have to look at the weird fucking scenarios.
I think basically I was just like, because it hadn't worked against you, I was just like, I'm gonna just get merry.
Yeah.
But I think what I should have done, because I realized afterwards, I was like, I'm such an idiot.
Oh, that's harsh.
Well,
you're stupid some of the time, but not all the time.
I appreciate it, because I had brought the perfect tool for this game.
Mayor Whitfoot.
No, Fatty Bolger.
No, don't give me that.
No, because
he is just a tool. He is never perfect.
Think about it. He deployed his entire force to come at me. He didn't bother leaving anyone to protect Merry. I should have Fatty, because I only needed one model to tag Merry,
and then take the banner.
And then I would have the banner and all the other models. And I was kind of kicking myself because I kind of thought of it later on in the day. I was just like, I actually had a way to do a lot better in that game.
Yeah.
So,
still, no one to blame but yourself, which is a healthy mentality to have.
I think it's just, I need
is what it is.
Play more games with them, basically.
Yeah.
So
secret is to always play more SBG.
Yes, in as many situations as possible. Yeah, it was okay though. Like two narrow losses. I'm not massively disappointed about with the Shire. It's a bit like,
can't be mad.
Is what it is.
Est enim est.
Yeah. What do we think of the retrieval then in our games?
It was fine. There was some ambiguity about how the king acted, which me and my opponent had to check. Yeah. And it turned out they were basically just an inanimate object until you grabbed them.
Yeah, they're not even on the board, essentially.
Yeah, and that
was a bit much.
That was a bit much. And I think because it's a brutal enough thing anyway to lose, your leader in this style where a lot of people had, brought very heavy king lists. So I wasn't 100% sure about that. It felt like it tilted it towards lists that hadn't brought a king, which wasn't very themey.
You did get a little bit closer if you brought a king.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It definitely wasn't. It wasn't horrifically imbalanced, but it was I'm not sure this is perfect. But yeah. I mean, in my game, I played against a Mordor list with Witch King and Gorbag. Basically, my plan was to just try and stop him getting to the Witch King and just win with straight up fights, which was going really well until I failed 7 courage tests out of 8 in one turn, and his Black Numenorians just charged straight past my stationary dwarves. towards the touch line. Sorry, the touch. What's the end zone called? Oh, the end zone. There you go. Like it is in.
What's the end zone called?
What's the end zone called? My brain was ahead of me. Yeah, and like literally, I was like, oh fuck, there's nothing I can do. So I did a heroic combat with Girion to try and like tackle the guy as he's running across the line. But it was too little, too late. Then my opponent freed up the Witch King, who can move 10 inches on a horse. So he spent 4 will to black dart one of my dwarves, which I respected. And just ran the Witch King through to the other side.
Imagine if he'd rolled a quadruple 1.
I know. I was I was really, although unfortunately he does get to reroll casting with the Witch King as well. So yeah, and then I think in hindsight, I should have maybe been a bit more aggressive because basically I just sat back and tried to absorb the whole game and then realised that I was screwed. But no march or anything. So yeah, it was kind of all over. Once again, I think I lost like 3 models in that game, but then lost like, I think it was 9-2 or something on VPs, 5-2 maybe, I can't remember. I think... Like, I knew this scenario would be bad because anything with maneuverability with dwarves with no march was going to be problematic. It was fine. And like, I think like a real feature of this event, and maybe we'll come on to this more later, was like I really like playing against my opponent. Like I basically in the early game I was brutally high rolling, and I felt a bit bad, but also I was like, oh, this is working out really well for me. And he never got salty about it. Like he wasn't getting annoyed, being like, "Oh, what the fuck is this?" We were having a bit of a joke, and that was quite nice. And then on the turn where I binned 7 courage tests, he was just like, "Oh, balance is restored" or whatever, and that felt quite nice. Very wholesome.
I'm just looking at. Oh, we can talk about this. I'm looking at the table, but we've got VPs, which is total VPs, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And then what's MOV? Is that the difference?
Yeah.
VP difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you consider that first place only lost 1 VP.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the difference between 3, 4, and 5. And it's very, like, I can't believe how close those are. Like,
is it interesting that I had more than all of you?
Yeah,
and finished 9th.
Spoilers, but yes.
You shouldn't have lost so many games, should you?
I know. I was really. I did try to win, but
doesn't matter if you win by a lot. If you only win,
if you scrape out some incredibly narrow wins.
So my game of Retrieval was, I don't think it's really a spoiler, was a loss. It was against the chap who went on to win it, Clayton, very well done, who I had 3 practice games with and won all of them. And then he changed his list. And then I called it before the tournament. I was like, watch now, we're going to have to play each other and you're going to beat me. And sure enough, he did. I was very happy for him. Essentially, he was playing Defenders of Helm's Deep. He knew he had to sit back and just stop me from jumping on Theoden. He also had Theoden, obviously. And so I couldn't call death or anything, which was kind of annoying. But I jumped on one half of the source. He got some good shots in. And I rolled a 2 on a fate roll for Deerwine's horse. And made the call to use his last 2 might to save his horse. Which later in the game... probably wasn't a good idea, and he pretty much shot me down. In the last turn of the game, I had Elfhelm and a Raw Guard. I won priority. You can see the dice there. One priority with a 3 against Clayton's 2. Needed to pass a courage test with Elfhelm to jump on Theoden. Rolled a double 1. Needed to pass a courage test with the Raw Guard, who doesn't get bodyguard because technically Theoden's not even there, which I think is a bit weird, because he clearly is there and he's what I'm trying to get to. The Raw Guard...
kind of like Schrodinger's Theoden, isn't it?
Yeah. He's there, but he's not.
Yeah.
And the Raw Guard failed their courage test, which means technically I'd tabled myself because Theoden doesn't exist yet.
Nice.
So I lost that. I think I would have had a chance if I'd passed either of those courage tests, but even then it would have been a bit shaky. So it was well played by Clayton. He knew he had to sit back and just weather the storm and shoot me down, and he did so.
Mm. Do you think Defenders of Helm's Deep was like particularly strong against you as a matchup? Like, obviously they've got the extended range on the bows. Like, was
the range
that
on the bows
impactful?
didn't matter because I closed the gap so quickly because you deploy up to halfway.
Yeah.
What was really good for him was the high fight value.
Yeah.
Fairly high models for the tournament. In terms of like considering their fight value. He has good shooting. He's got 3 heroes, which means even though one of them wasn't even on the board, he still had 2. He had a hero with a bow, most importantly, and he could use that to manipulate dice rolls to shoot me off my horses. The throwing spears for raw guard. It's just a really nice mix of troops and heroes. Yeah, I just think it's just really strong, and it's done quite well at tournaments as well in general.
Yeah.
So yeah, for this I think it was pretty good as well, evidently. But he played it well as well. What was the third mission?
Seize the Crown.
Oh shit! Yeah, this one was new.
Oh yeah, tell us about your game, OT. I want to hear. I want to hear the songs about the double crown shenanigans.
Well, so there was no salt in this game. I think this was the only game where there was a slightly awkward moment with my opponent, but like it wasn't fine. It was fine. It wasn't intentional, but yeah,
it wasn't fine.
It wasn't fine. I'm still not over it. Yeah, so essentially I was against Moria, and I was like, okay, we're fine. And then he put down 2 bat swarms. I was like, oh fuck! Like, nothing I could do to stop those.
Perfect for the scenario.
Yeah, literally. And like the other thing is which I hadn't realised, they got 4 fucking wounds, so you can't shoot them down. Like, not a chance. So essentially we deployed. We were both fairly cagey. We didn't rush for it immediately. I tried to like form like a sort of perimeter around the central objective. And then basically what he did with his superior numbers was just ran in with the bat swarms and then like a shield wall of like expendable goblins, rolled to see if he could uncovered it on his first try. So then he had it on a bat swarm, and I was like, well, fuck, like what the hell do I do now? So I tried my best to like, again, just mean it couldn't go anywhere, but because he had 2, he could like pass it from one to the other, and it was just it was a bit brutal. And yeah, again, I think I lost like 4 or 5 models in this game, and it was basically just me trying to chase him down. I had once again Girion, my saving grace, deploy on the back rank as my like last ditch defense against him, but I maybe slightly mispositioned him technically, although I measured it as not being in range, but it turned out it maybe was in range of being charged by a goblin, so I couldn't take a charge. I couldn't take a shot at the bat swarm to try and stop it running off the board, because it only had 2 wounds left by that point, so I may actually have been able to get it with Girion's last few might. Yeah, it was an ETH. I think I was essentially relying on just that roll not going through, and it did. And from that point, like I think we've discussed, like, well, me and Onod have talked about this before, but at that point, it was just the limitations of my list. Like it doesn't have the maneuverability to cope with those kind of objectives, and I just paid the price in that case. Like I was doing pretty well in all the combats. Like, as I say, I only lost a few dwarves. Thrall was chopping through people pretty well, but yeah, it was just... And the problem is, as soon as you run the objective off the board, the game ends, so there were no other points or anything else. It was just a straight 7-0 for the Batstorm taking it off the board edge. Yeah, it was fine. Like, again, not salty about it. It's just a risk you take when you're playing dwarves.
Yeah, the Batstorm really clutch for that scenario.
Yeah. And just useful in general, I think. Like, I think having any model with fly is it's similar to the Crabane. It's just useful having around, and it's
halving the fight as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and just having that model around is going to be super useful a lot of the time. So yeah, it was fine. Who's next?
Go on, man.
Onod? Oh, okay. Well, my game 3 was against something I didn't really want to come up against in the tournament, and that was Azog's Hunters. So I knew about this list beforehand. and I was a little bit terrified because he had like 14 bows. He had Thimble or something. Whichever
he had
one has a
Thimble.
bow with poisoned arrows.
Narzug. I played this list in the fourth game. Sorry. So yeah,
and a captain, just like a hunter captain,
who had a two-handed weapon.
He did, and he was very hard to tell apart from the other models. So I got that wrong a couple of times. I was like, let's do your captain fight, and we rolled, and then he backed him away, and I was like, oh, that's a different model to what I thought it was. I've sort of got move advantage on this one. I won priority, marched up, rolled a 2 to dig it up, so I failed. He shot me a bit. We charged each other. Turn 2. I slowly kind of ground down his force. He left a lot of guys back, but didn't shoot into combat with them. I was expecting him to do one of either of the options, which to me were charge everything in and surround me and get as many attacks on me as possible, or send like one guy in on each of my guys and then start shooting me. He kind of sent some guys on me and then didn't shoot me. So I slowly ground him down. He kept his captain and the Wag guy in the middle of the table, which was massively disadvantage near the end of the game. I thought that he'd bring his bowman, his bow captain forward, but he didn't. I was expecting him to use him for moves or something, but didn't end up using his might for very much. And managed to dig up the prize with a raw guard and pass it to Theoden, who promptly got shot off his horse and just snuck onto my opponent's side of the table. And I just sort of protected him as much as I could before we ran out of time and Theoden had survived. So I don't think he was going to take Theoden down. I just kept shielding. He's defense 7, and he's high enough fight to win. And I still had a couple might, so there wasn't very much he could do about that. So that was that game. Won it very narrowly, having, I think, I was definitely broken. I don't think he was broken, but I had the prize.
Nice.
So
Onod, what happened with you?
This was by far my favorite game, both in terms of vibes with the opponent. It was just good fun. This was very much just a kind of we both play the game how it was meant to be played, rather than playing it like how to win. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I only remember to take one photo because I was actually doing stuff.
Full concentration mode.
He had Harad and Farharad, and he's a relative new player, so I was helping out some rules with cavalry and stuff. And he was kind of like, I've accidentally collected the meta. I just bought this because I thought it looked cool, and now everyone tells me that I'm a tryhard, and I was just like, yeah, you'll get that with impact hits. He took an interesting strategy, which was he was just, I'm gonna try and prevent, because we had this big weather top in the middle, so the objective was actually on a piece of terrain, so his cavalry was up there. And we were like, before the game I was like, do you want to move this? And he was like, no, let's just keep it. And I was like, okay. He decided that what he was going to do was he was going to move the cav and try and just prevent me from getting onto the objective.
Okay.
And as you can see from the first image, this is after his first turn of movement. He definitely could have potentially done it if he'd got the priorities right.
Yeah.
I called double heroic march, so Mary was able to yeet up 7 inches. So I was like, okay, I'll be able to get some hobbits onto that terrain piece if I win priority next turn. Even if I didn't, I'd be able to get some on. What I ended up doing though is, as you can see, he'd exposed all of his camels to my archers.
Nice.
And I actually, did something this turn with my shooting. So I actually killed all of his camels in a single turn of shooting and one rider, and the only guy left on a camel was his king.
Nice.
So that whole strategy he had kind of just fell apart. So I hopped all my hobbits up onto the objective. I then spawned my warband onto the objective as well. So at this point, I had like Merry, 12 Battle in Brandy books, Will Whitford, fucking 12 other hobbits. I was like, I've got basically, 3/4 of my army up here, or 2/3 of my army. The Turkish hunters were kind of doing like a bit of a delaying action. They actually killed the 3 Mahud raiders in combat when they'd been knocked off their camels.
Christ.
But the king, his impact hits, he like took out like about 10 hobbits just with impact hits. It was brutal because he only needed a 4-up.
Yeah.
So it was just dead. I move an inch, dead. I move another inch, dead. Like that for 2 turns, he was just kind of going backwards and forwards, just ruffle stomping them.
Nice.
Now, what I should have done, and I was conscious of this, was I could have just moved Merry 1 inch forwards and got the 5 points.
Okay, yeah.
And I could have just sat on this bit of terrain because he wouldn't have been able to get up there and he didn't have any shooting. And he'd have been able to feed about like 4 Harrods up at a time. And he just wouldn't be able to kill enough hobbits to break me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could have won 5-0, but I was like, you know what? He's relatively new to game. He hasn't been like boring and like, dismounted all his camels to try and get the objective. He went for like quite a bold play. So I was like, game recognized game. I will go for the bold play of trying to get Merry off the board. So what I ended up doing was I ended just throwing hobbits off Weathertop, and they all had to take a climb check because the building, whilst not very tall, is for a hobbit. So a couple of hobbits died on the way out. Merry rolled a 1 on the climb test, so I had to use
of course he did.
Final point of might to prevent taking unnecessary wounds. And I put the objective on Merry because I was like, he didn't get the benefit of the crown, but I was kind of thinking he's got the best shot of surviving.
Yeah.
I create like a corridor of hobbits so that Merry could like heroically run through. It's like, the fucking berserker at Helm's Deep. Merry was just like pegging it. The Harrod was trying to shoot him. And the guy was just like, he only had 2 cav left. And he was just like, I don't think I can make it. And I was just like, mate, like your cav will reach Merry by the end of the game. And sure enough, they did. So he'd lost his last camel at this point, thank God. So he didn't get an impact hit. But his last cav model, which was his Harad chief on a horse, just caught Merry with one other guy when Merry was 4 inches away from the board edge. Merry shielded, won the combat because he had no might left because he'd had to march to fucking catch up. And it literally came down to the last priority. I was like, if Merry was the only hobbit on the board, because all of the others had just valiantly died in this kind of defensive action so that he could get off. I think maybe there was like 1 Turkish hunter somewhere. And I was like to him, if I win, I'll just immediately move him off. And we rolled, and we both rolled a 4, but I won because he'd had it last turn. So it was a very close game. I could have won it much more comfortably, but the 7-3 victory was sweeter than the 5-0 in the end.
Very honourable.
Yeah. So there you go. It was a really fun game, though. And yeah, nice opponent. Good. Good times with that one. And that, I think, moves on to the last game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't take any photos this one, and I will just give my brief overview now. I matched up against another Harrod list, which I didn't really want to match up against. I was actually quite hoping to match up against UOT just for the lols.
Yeah.
Although
you actually played the guy I played in the first round.
Yeah. It was just brutal. Like I
who?
For both of us, I think. I decided to deploy as like a bit of a castle at the back, but then obviously that didn't entirely work because he didn't have many bows, but he had enough that I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to come forwards because he only had about 6, but I was like, I've got to because he will eventually just ping them off.
Yeah,
I managed to keep pace with him for a little bit. But then he just managed to pull ahead over a couple of turns, and then he just ran away. And I was just like to him, he kind of said to me, he was just like, the players for me to run away here, and I was like, no, I completely get it. You should just run away.
Yeah.
We were kind of saying, and I was kind of saying to him, I actually don't think I don't think Lords of Battle is a very good scenario, because it just
as in general.
In general, I just think it's a shit scenario.
Interesting.
I just don't think that it leads to interesting situations like Seize the Prize, for example. Seize the Prize forces engagement. Lords of Battle, as long as you're ahead of your opponent in kills, you don't really want to be fighting. You just want to, like, some armies just want to try and get one bow shot, and then they're just going to sit back. And I just don't personally find it a great scenario. And for the Hobbits, it was just brutal, because there's just nothing they could do to catch up. Like, I have 2 possible turns where I can get a 7-inch march, so I can gain 2 inches on him. So I was just like, there's nothing I can do. At this point, like, he'd been quite clever with his shooting and shot my bows, and I'd been trying to protect them, but at the end of the day, you get enough turns with poison shots and in the ways, and the turns are going by quite quickly because there wasn't really much to do, so you were getting a lot of shooting off. Yeah, it was a fine game. It wasn't the most engaging.
No,
I don't think my opponent found it massively thrilling either, but obviously played it very well, got the dub.
Yep.
So yeah, that was me finishing on 1 and 3, which I'm fine with. I think for the first time running the Shire.
Yeah.
I won the scenario that I was least confident on. So that was a bit odd. I thought I'd be much better at the first 2 scenarios than I was at the scenario.
I mean, I had assumed the second scenario was kind of a slam dunk for you, like between your ambushes and the fact you had such a cheap hero.
As I say, if I had put Freddy and ambushed him, and if I had rolled like just hot garbage, I think that one would have been a lot closer.
Big oof.
Yup. OT, how's your last game?
This was, I think, the least fun. But hang on. Have I just said something that can't possibly be true? Yeah, I'm going to say it anyway. It was the least fun, but the most funny game. Basically, what happened was I was against the Azog's list that Mayor had matched up against, and I was fairly confident because he's more of a spammy army, I'm more of an elite army, and like I've got some really tanky heroes and shit like that. And I was like, okay, this should be all right. Like Hunter Orcs are a lot to deal with. Strength 4, 2 attacks is real good, but I was pretty confident I could deal with it. I'm slightly ashamed to say I kind of parked the bus in this one. I kind of sat at the back. And again, a lot of these boards had a central objective that kind of forced people to split their forces. I don't know if that had been done intentionally, but it was a feature of a number of the boards I played on. And this was no exception. And again, basically what I did is I just put my dwarves tucked in behind the cover, and I was literally just going to wait for him to pick which side he went on, and then I was going to pick off the weaker side. Girion was like a fucking Gatling gun in this game, because his strength 4 bow against D4 models was just absolutely brutal. Like, I think he'd killed like 6 or 7 before we got into combat by himself. And I think that kind of forced my opponent's hand a bit, because it was clear that like he didn't really want to engage, but it got to the stage where he kind of had to, because I was just picking off too many of his models. And yeah, so
why I don't like Laws of Battle, because it just incentivizes this kind of match where one player's just going to sit there and shoot. Like it just that's the game.
No, I agree. And yeah, eventually he was forced to commit his sort of left flank, which had Fimble and the captain on it. And yeah, my dwarves just absolutely massacred them. Throwing weapons were great here as well. Like again, my strength 4 dudes were wounding him on 4s, and even his strength 4 dudes were, because I'm dwarves, were wounding me, were wounding my guys on 6s. So even when he was winning combats, nothing was happening. Like Thrall got surrounded a couple of times. He had like 2 guys trapping him, getting off what would that be, 8 strength 4 attacks and just nothing getting through. Eventually just completely obliterated one side of his force, broke him. So this was a scenario where you rolled 1 or 2, and he rolled 3 plus 5 turns in a row, and at which point I tabled him.
Wow.
And we called it a day. I lost 2 models to his Hunter Orcs, and yeah, it was, I don't know, it I did feel bad, but like it the dice rolling was like so hilarious at points that it was quite funny, because like both of us were like, actually there's nothing you could have done here, like you did the best you could. But yeah, really enjoyed the dwarves in this one, and I think throughout the whole tournament, like maybe I'll come back to this again at the end, but like compared to the fucking experience with Riv Knights, like this was so much more fun, and like I really like Girion. Like he's useless so much of the time until suddenly he wins you the game, and it's like, oh, cool. So yeah, really enjoyed him. But yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the dwarves more. I think historically they've always been closer to your playstyle, just like
they are
actually engaging and tanky and reliable.
Yeah. And I think the way to play them optimally is the way I want to play. And there were definitely times where like I deliberately played the Riv Knights in a way I maybe shouldn't have done, just so, I'd actually play the game, as it were. Yeah. So yeah.
Would you have played my first game differently?
No, like I think if you had charged in, you would have lost. I think that was kind of an auto lose. I think the elves just have such good breakpoints against you, and like Thranduil with 2 heroic combats, he could have killed like 2 of your heroes in a turn. That would have felt real bad. So yeah, I fully understand why you did what you did.
Okay, fair enough. You wouldn't have given in to being like, this feels a bit sucky, I'm just going to charge you.
I mean, I would have been tempted, but also like it's almost objectively wrong. So like I think
if it would have been at least a fair fight, I might have done it.
Yeah. But like you would like you literally would have been annihilated. I think
there was no reason for me to. I was just like, he this whole time it was just like, I was really debating bringing Thranduil with a bow, but I just decided against it for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, Thranduil does have a 2+ shoot. I know that's not what he's meant to be used for, but like, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it would mean I can't just keep running away from him, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah. My last game, this was against Mordor with the Witch King with 3 attacks on a horse.
This was the list that I played in the second round.
Yeah.
There was a real small pool of matchups that we all faced. Like,
still none of us have played each other.
I felt like there was like a portion of players at this tournament who basically didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like
they were just off in their own little world.
They appeared on Longshanks, but I neither saw them nor interacted with them. Was kind of,
and then everyone went home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, trying to just get model points by killing stuff. Charged forward. He had 3 bows on a thing up there. So I tried to take one side of his flank. He very cunningly pulled one of my horses forward with a compel and jumped on it. Combated forward, proceeded to kill absolutely nothing.
Nice.
Which felt good, because when he compelled it, I was just like, shit. He jumped on it with like 8 guys, including it's not Shagrat, the other one. Gorbag. And yeah, combated into some guys, did nothing. I want to move off, charged everything, held the Witch King up for a couple of turns, which was enough for me to get a couple of combats off with like Theoden and Dear Wine. Managed to thin him out enough. This was just about getting wounds, so I managed to rack up enough wounds, really. It was really hard to like control space with this army. Just in all of the games, it felt like I knew what I had to do to win, but I wasn't comfortable with any of the ways of doing it. Obviously, in the first game, it was just very obvious how I had to win. But in the others, well, obvious and easy. Whereas the others, it was more like, right, my one chance to win this is by just putting all my eggs in this basket and just hoping it works. And for the most part, that paid off. But it always felt like I was having to be very careful with every single movement, like having 7 models, 4 of which are basically just dudes, didn't make me feel like I had much of an option. It wasn't really like I'd brought a take all comers list where it's flexible. Like I've got to do one thing, and that's charge forward and kill shit.
But only on the right turn, because if you do it on the wrong turn, you just get fucked up.
Yeah, and losing a move off at any point is just devastating. But if you can outlast your opponent on might, then you're getting to do that for free. And because you can take so many heroes with this army in general, you will eventually get to that point. But I think the higher points level you go, your opponent will probably have enough might to just call a move off every time. And eventually, when you're not charging, you're just shit. And you'll just die really fast. So
it's like my experience with Riv Knights.
Yeah. So Cav is so swingy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was fun though. Like it felt themey. Like I brought a king, and I love the Rohan. I just think they're really cool. I was expecting them to do well, but I don't think I won any of my games by very much, which is reflected in my VP total, which I think, let's see, total VPs 14. Your VPs was 25.
It was.
But you won one less game than me.
I did.
So I won all of mine quite narrowly. Although saying that, I ended up coming third, but third, fourth, and fifth all had 3 wins. I had the highest VP difference by 1. The person who came fifth has a -1 VP difference. How is that? Does that mean they 12-0'd in their loss and then won all of their
to be
others
fair,
by like a couple?
I think there are a lot of scenarios that were picked for this where like a 3-0 win was very likely. So I can see how you could end up still winning if you got tabled.
You say that, but Clayton got 28 VPs and his VP difference was 27. Like, he conceded 1 VP in the whole tournament. But
he basically just like tabled people. Well, not quite, but almost in.
Yeah, I mean, the person who came second,
3 games.
VP's 23, VP difference 23. Drew 1 game, probably 0-0 by the looks of that, and then just won the others by like 7 or 6.
He was the guy who 7-0'd me, to be fair, with the Bat Swarm.
Yeah. So I mean, he brought a king, so it's fluffy. I felt like the incentive for this tournament was really nice because it let you bring models that you perhaps wouldn't usually. Obviously, you didn't have to, but you were incentivized to, which made it themey enough. I think it was a good GBHL80 event, definitely. It was a good theme.
Yeah, no, agreed. I enjoyed the theme. I think I don't know if in hindsight I would have brought King in, but I think I enjoyed practicing the Hobbits, and we'll play them again.
You just missed not having Ents. Is the truth?
Yeah, there's no King Ent.
Yeah, I could have. The thing is, if it wasn't for that one scenario where Treebeard would have been locked, I would have probably brought the 350 Treebeard Quick Beam army. Yeah,
I think that would have been an auto lose. To be fair, the last scenario you almost certainly would have won.
Yeah.
The Seize the Prize, as long as you pick it up with anyone and your opponent isn't tailor-built to kill Ents, you would have done fine.
Quick Beam with an 8-inch move.
Does he have March as well?
Yeah, he'd have a good shot.
Okay, so he'd be on there turn 1.
Yeah.
Assuming you've got a straight line. And then What's the other one? What even was the scenario for the first game?
Fascinates, but
Assassinate.
the,
Oh well, that would
Kings
be
of
fine as well.
Empire. So I mean, in fairness, the Ents would have probably done better than the Hobbit.
Probably.
It just felt like bringing an army where I knew I couldn't win. One of the scenarios was a bit kind of like, I mean, I guess I could have just blitzed through with Quick Beam and free Tree Bid and just hoped I could kill enough that I just win by tabling them.
Or you try and protect the objective.
To be fair, if I had drawn up against the guy who I did draw up against with Quick Beam versus 14 Owls.
I mean, Thranduil just strikes up and
but Thranduil's locked, remember?
Oh shit, yeah. But their fights. Oh yeah, your fight 7. Maybe.
I mean, he might have at least been able to kill enough that I broke him.
Yeah, you might have done okay. I think you'd have to get some lucky rolls for a few turns, but then you'd probably win because he's killing you on 6s. So
yeah, we'll see.
We live and learn.
Next time. So what should we go over what our predictions were and how we did? I.e.
Oh god, what did we predict?
So I think
I think I got you spot on. I'm pretty sure I predicted you 3 and 9.
Yeah, I think OT said 3 and a draw.
Yep.
What did I predict for AT? Did I predict you to get 2 and I might have predicted you right as well, AT actually.
I think you might have said 2-2, yeah.
I have got them. I'll just quickly hop into my video edit so that I can see what.
And I was within half a score for both of you.
Yeah, so you didn't get any right is the way that you should have said
I averaged spot on.
You were very optimistic about being wrong.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, well, obviously, the Hobbits really struggled in most of that.
I predicted. Oh no, I did predict you'd get 3 and a draw.
Okay.
Wow, he's fucking psychic.
But I got OT spot on with 2-2.
Wow.
So I got Mare slightly wrong. OT predicted I'd go 2 and. Yeah, OT predicted I'd go 2 and 2.
Oh.
Which is very generous in hindsight, I think.
I was fairly close. I mean, you should have won the second scenario if you hadn't rolled like garbage.
Yeah, true. I'd been up against different opponents, though. There's no way, like, with all respect to my opponent in the third game, I think that either of you would have beaten me if you'd brought that list against the Hobbits. Like, I think just his entire game plan of trying to yeet round to stop me getting onto the objective in the first place was a bit
ambitious.
A bit, yeah. It was a little bit ambitious to pull off, I think. But then
you never know.
Equally, I would have played it more gamey had I.
Yep.
Had I had to
try hard or not.
Yeah, that is what they call me. Mayor just got everything wrong.
Yeah.
And OT got everything wrong as well.
There you go. We don't know fuck all.
So I won this game of guess how well people are going to do based on.
Congratulations. What should we give him?
Editing privileges for this video.
Well, I agree.
I already won that. So.
Nailed it.
Should we very quickly have a look at the top 2 lists? We don't need to look at the third list. Fucking nerds.
Fucking nerds.
Yeah.
Winner, Defenders of Helm's Deep. Defenders of Helm's Deep are picking up quite a lot of the low point GBHLs, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just really good.
They're thriving at low points. I think it's because you can get a legendary hero so cheap with Haleth, and then it's just a bit kind of.
Yeah.
It's just deep.
He's got Howl.
Decent 5 Royal Guard, isn't it?
Yeah. So he's got Theoden, Haleth with 4 warriors with throwing spear and shield, 2 Royal Guard with throwing spears, 2 Royal Guard with just swords, I guess, 3 warriors with shields, Haldir, 2 Galadrim with bow, and 3 Galadrim.
I mean, having Haldir as a second hero is pretty decent.
Yeah. Clayton was saying it in, I think, his last game, Haldir's death rule killed like 3 models.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But like even that strength 3 bow at 30 inches, firing twice a turn, is probably pretty good.
Yeah, lots of shots. He probably had. I mean, the Khan, I guess, is the only one that will outshoot him.
But it was a 12 now.
It was.
So he must have tabled the cans.
Yeah,
that's
not
the
sure.
guy that's the guy that I played in turn 1. So he had like 2 chariots and like about 10 cav models. So he must have been rolling pretty hot on the old shooting. I'm guessing that the can guy must have charged in rather than. I guess when you're playing 30-inch bows, maybe he was a bit like, yeah, but there's only 3.
Well, no, there's. Wait, is it only Haldir and the 3
and two
warriors? Wow.
So I'm surprised he didn't try and outshoot him.
Like, he's got all his. He's got some throwing spears as well. And he's got quite a lot of throwing spears actually. 6 throwing spears.
The guy could have kited because he's got a 10-inch move, 5.
Yeah. I don't know how he must have played this.
I'm guessing he just yeeted in with the chariots in the hopes that he could run people over, and it just backfired.
Yeah, possibly.
Because he yeeted the chariots in against me when I was kind of thinking to myself, you don't really need to do this. You're just going to break me and win from shooting. So I think there was an element that he just wanted to throw the chariot.
Kill some stuff.
Which is fair enough. I mean, he got 3 doing it, didn't he? So
yeah.
And then second place was Moria.
Yeah.
Roblog.
Yeah. This that beat me.
Double mithril crown.
Yeah. Never. It didn't happen, sadly. We did check with the TO and he was like, yeah, it stacks. It was like, fucking hell.
Beautiful. He should have passed it from the batsman to him just for the memes.
Yeah.
I mean, you get almost as many models as I had, only 10 off, but they're a lot better. And you've got bat swarms. So yeah, kind of makes sense why this would do well at small points.
Yeah. You got 2 captains, is he? Am I reading that right?
Yeah. Yep.
So 2 captains, loads of prowlers and warriors, and 2 bat swarms and Grophog.
Yep. And if you actually look at his fucking games, he actually did really well. Interestingly, the only points he lost was against like one of the like second from bottom armies, that army of Thrall, where it was just loads of Grim Hammers.
Oh, I did love that list. Many respects to that list.
I want to know.
It's going to be impossible for him to wound it.
Yeah,
I want to know what that first game between Moria and the army of Thrall was like. If
they just sat in a corner away from each other.
That must have been essentially what happened. It must have been so cagey to have ended.
But maybe they were trying to throw weapon each other.
Maybe the Thralls should have just got stuck in there. They'd have had a decent shot at breaking the Moria. You'd have thought.
Yeah, I mean, 35 models at 350 points is just insane.
Yeah. But anyway, there we go. Thanks to Chris.
Yeah.
Thanks to Chris for running it. He won't watch this, probably. Well, he might do, I don't know.
Maybe he's a big fan.
Yeah, maybe. Unlikely. Congrats to Clayton for winning.
Smashed it.
Yeah, well done, lad.
Congrats to the lunatic who painted each each Goblin Town model to a high standard to win Best Painted.
They were really good.
Yeah, it wasn't so. Those bases were so cool.
The bases were very cool. I think like the bases won it for him.
Yeah.
I think a fancy base. It's like Sebastian's ones where he's got the resin water bases. Like I think they just add what's needed to win.
Jeff's kiss.
So there we go. Bye.